Hi, good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm Ume. So I'll be hosting this today's session. I welcome you once again to our today's session. Our today's session title is Engaging Students Using Non-Traditional Platforms. So today we have our subject matter expert with us. Thank you so much, Stephanie Luetner, to be among us. So before starting, let's know a little bit more about Stephanie. Stephanie Luetner has been working in the ESL, EFL for 20 plus years, teaching in Canada and Europe, writing curriculum and becoming a PBLA lead and Google certified educator. Many years ago, out of desperation to avoid a perpetually broken photocopier, she created a class Twitter account as a place to post class documents. It quickly evolved into much, much more and was a resounding success with the learners. So thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your personal anecdote. It's really inspiring and amazing story. So at first, there will be some introductory questions. So I'll ask those introductory questions to our subject matter expert directly. She will share her insightful comments, and then we will ask to the audience. So our first question today is, what value do you see in using social media as a learning tool in your classroom? So over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Ume, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I see immense value in using social media as a learning tool. One of the primary reasons is that the students know it or know of it or can already use it. So it's something they are familiar with. Also, if you are using PBLA to teach, there are a large amount of real-world tasks that you can use associated with social media. You can also teach concepts of Google citizenship, digital citizenship, which are so important. One expert, and I forget who it was, I'm sorry, said, learners can have the newest, most expensive smartphone, but that doesn't mean they know how to use it, and it doesn't mean they know how to use it safely. And that is something that is immensely valuable for us to teach our learners. And something very important for me as a teacher, there are hundreds of free resources in social media that you can use for lessons and for real-world tasks and for teaching tools. So that is a summary of the value I see in social media as a learning tool.
So Gunul, should we move up to the next questions, or you would like to ask the question to our audience?
You're muted, Gunul.
Sorry about that. Thank you. If anybody would like to participate in the discussion, please do so. Make sure you raise your hand so that you can talk. Or if you don't feel talking, you can type. For example, Mitra mentions networking and making it possible for students to connect and know each other. Very good point. Thank you, Mitra. And Bosara also, I used it for authentic language. And please feel free to type in the chat and I will read out loud on behalf of you, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Nasrin mentions, I use it for my writing class. That's great. Raj mentions that social media can help with letting vent for your feeling as well as those of students, and also share experiences and materials with people in the network. Okay, Susan has a question. She's specifically, what social media are we referring to?
I am personally referring to Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I have taught my students how to fill out the forms on LinkedIn, but not the communication aspect of it. So,
Great, thank you, Stephanie. And Marjorie says, learners can support each other and help to build community. Very good point, definitely. And Nasrin mentions, I use WhatsApp too. I heard WhatsApp quite a bit as well. Great tool. Any other comments? Please feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand. Burja mentions, I've used Facebook Messenger before because it's familiar to students and you do not need to become Facebook friends or give out your number. Excellent point, Burja. Salda mentions, I think it is also a good way of building rapport with students. Yes, absolutely. Karen mentions, my learners use WhatsApp to connect with each other and to send me questions after class time. Yes, definitely.
I have heard that from many teachers too that use WhatsApp. The problem is after class time begins to extend till midnight. So I'm iffy about using WhatsApp if I'm allowed to in my system.
Good point, Stephanie. Definitely. It needs some sort of a control.
Agree.
I guess if teacher and the students have a mutual agreement after this specific time, no more messaging, it might work. And Bosara mentions you can negotiate rules with the adult students. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Nasrin mentioned, I use it to stay connected, but have told them not to text me after 6 p.m. for my morning students. Did it work, Nasrin? I'm curious about that. Awesome, great. I'll give it a try. Ah, such a good student, Nasrin. And Kyrie mentioned we are talking about the new legislation around right to disconnect, which received a royal assess on December the 2nd, 2021. Something new, I didn't know that. Yes, Stephanie mentioned much respect to you that it worked. Yes, definitely, because sometimes they don't listen. Sometimes they do. Oh, that's a good point too. Nasrin mentions, I set the notification off after 5. That's a good one. Yay. Great comments are coming in. We are warming up. Excellent. So Basarna said, Portugal too has a very strict law for disconnecting, just passed last week. Interesting. We should look into that. I wasn't aware of it. Great. Yes, we are all getting great ideas. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your, insight about this question. Amira mentions, I guess I'm kind of extreme. My phone is silent for the last 5 years. Oh, dear Lord, Amira. Oh, well, we are always open to new things, right? We can give it a try.
Oh, do you think we can move on to the next question?
Yes, good idea.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everybody. So our next question is, how can you sell using social media in the classroom to learners who are not familiar, comfortable with it? Stephanie.
Thank you. One of the primary points that I use, especially with senior learners who view it as a young person's thing, I say you can talk to family back home using these tools, and that always gets a positive response. To other students who may be a little more familiar with the idea, if not the use of social media, I teach the point of Canadian culture that we, as a nation, actively complain about and to our government about things. I can remember students being flabbergasted that Justin Trudeau posted his Facebook and Instagram accounts and Twitter accounts. And I'm like, yes, you can contact these people. And many government ministers and MPPs and MPs have, and city councilors have these accounts, and they pay attention because quite simply they want votes. So if things are mentioned a lot, they're going to pay attention to them. Also, connecting to government ministries. There are no more paper publications from a lot of ministries. If you want something, you have to go to their website, and an even easier way is to simply follow them. That way it's automatically sent to you. I also sell based on the jobs. It is an increasingly popular method of both job search and getting applicants using social media. Community resources, such as I believe it's called Early On Centers. When I was there, it was Early Years Centers. Food banks, community organizations, community parks and recreations organizations, lots of community assistance, news as well. And I say you can't do it in class, but you can search for stuff in your language too. So once you learn how to do it in English, when you're not in class, feel free to go look for accounts to follow in your own language. So those are my main selling points. Does anyone else have selling points?
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Actually, Rosara mentions that is a tool to be used sparingly and for a specific purpose in a classroom setting. Also, you can start with email to communicate and then move forward. Absolutely. If they are not really familiar, good idea to start with email and introduce the other one. And Susan said, why not just stick with only Google? Would you like to answer that?
I'm curious what you mean by stick with Google. Do you mean Google groups maybe? Or?
No, actually, if I can speak, all those reasons you mentioned for Facebook and stuff, well, if I just Google the government official or community food bank, I don't have to bother, being on Facebook, and especially if the language is limited, you don't have to think and just put a couple of words in. You can get the same results, I would imagine.
Can I answer that? Or
absolutely, yeah.
Okay. That I would say it's a matter of student comfort. If someone is more comfortable just Googling where to find something, then by all means. However, by following accounts in social media platforms, they are able to get automatic news from those sources. And that is why I encourage them to follow the accounts, because there's marginally less effort involved. Plus, especially at lower levels, I have students who can't type at all. Like they keep searching for the A key every single day. And for them, it's easier to scroll than to have to type. So that's my reasons. But if a student is more comfortable, they know what to look for and how to spell it, then yeah, searching a web browser can be just as effective.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. We have Nisrin mentions walking them through to steps live by sharing the screen is something very practical. Absolutely, it's quite helpful. Burjo also mentions, when the pandemic started, I created and also sent my students instructional videos on how to use various social platforms, sometimes in their native language from YouTube, to help them become more comfortable with navigating through them.
Would you be able to share where you got those videos from by any chance?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Lisa, thank you.
Yes, this is Burju.
Hi, Burju.
Yeah, basically, I found some on YouTube. So I searched, like if somebody spoke a different language, like Arabic, for example, I would search the instructional video, for example, on how to use Zoom in Arabic. And then I would send that to the students because my class was CLB 3-4. So that helped them out a lot instead of me trying to explain it in English. Sometimes when I would explain it in English, they would understand a certain percentage of what I was saying, but not all of it. So this complemented, what I was trying to do.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Burju. That was very helpful. And we have Mitra mentioned, how about pairing up students, the ones who know it well, with the one who have no idea or feel not competent enough?
I have never done this because of privacy regulations at my school board. So it's just not really an option because for example, when I signed the class up for Twitter, it was a 2-factor authentication and you have to enter a phone number. And a lot of students were like, no, I don't want anyone seeing my phone number. And also a lot of the women were like, I'm not telling them how old I am. So.
Thank you, Stephanie. So we have Osara mentions you have to teach keywords. I think that's very important point, keywords. Nesrin also, I agree with Mesra. I always use the help of students. Depends on the situation, I guess. Amira says, as a point of interest, we can sell the convenience to find relevant to the students' information by following certain pages on Facebook. Would you like to share your example with us, Amira?
Actually, while I was writing my comment, Stephanie was talking about the news. And I was saying, oh my God, she's talking exactly about what I'm thinking about. And how it's like, I think a lot of young people as well as adults mainly take their news from Facebook, for example. I personally follow CBC and BBC pages on Facebook, and I rarely actually read the news online, like on the official websites. So if someone is interested in sports, they can follow the page of their favorite team. If someone is interested in news, same thing. Later on, I also talked about, I was thinking about young adults. If for example, if maybe one of the tasks we can ask the students to shoot videos and post them in the class group on Facebook or on Padlet or something, and the students can respond to these videos, something like TikToks and stuff like that, like short videos.
Great, thank you, Amira. And we have, Umi mentions, I follow my teacher account. And Mitra says, yes, Nasan, I do believe the fact that each student can bring a lot more to class. Yes, we can we should not all, underestimate our students, what they know, what they don't know, right?
Exactly. And it also helps when shy students are a lot more comfortable typing than speaking.
Very good point. Absolutely. Raj has a question. How old do kids have to be to access Twitter feeds? Adults have no barrier, rights.
I have no idea. All our students are over 18, so it's not an issue.
Great. Kelly mentions, I have invited expert into the classroom to teach students how to set up a LinkedIn profile to build their network and online community. They are learning how to post and how to connect with the key contacts who might help them with their job search. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Bosara mentioned 13 years old, depending on jurisdiction and with parents' guardian consent, any younger disallowed. With advanced language level, students can shoot videos and their classmates can respond to these videos. That's a good point, Amira. Some they do it, absolutely. Yes, Mitra, you're right. LinkedIn is for professional use. I'm not too sure if they, anybody else uses other than professional purpose for LinkedIn. Any ideas, Stephanie?
Yes, it is professional, I think is the wrong word to describe all of LinkedIn. It's for job search and recruiting, but a lot of people treat it like a social network now, right? The number of likes are important suddenly and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you can also follow accounts on LinkedIn related to your industry, right? And that can be useful to students as well. If they're looking to become a pharmacist in Canada or a teacher or something, they can follow their professional association. So it can be a source of information there.
Yes, some of us did use LinkedIn especially for advanced students. Okay, I think we can move on to next question, Umme.
Yeah. Okay, great. Good conversation going on. Yeah, what real world tasks could you get out of using social media as part of learning?
The very first one is how to sign up for an account, which depending on the level of your students and their technical abilities can be a fairly quick process or a fairly drawn out process. Reading and understanding rules and regulations of the accounts, the terms and conditions, that can also be one. Something that we did for safety reasons was creating a dummy email account. Understanding the purpose of creating that account to access the social media, the safety around it, and quite frankly, how to lie convincingly when filling in your information was a real world task. Also, things like learning how to post, to like, to reply, to answer a poll. All of those were very valuable real world tasks for me.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for sharing your insight. Please feel free to share your opinion, or if you have any questions that you would like to ask our subject expert matter, please do so, or you can also use the chat if you like. So we can, Bosara mentions that we can use it for description, summary, listening, and comprehension for real world tasks. Thank you, Bosara, that's great. And Amira mentioned using Flip to make shopping list. Would this be using social media?
I don't think it would be social media because it's not a network, but it's certainly a real world task. Definitely. Downloading the app, agreeing to the terms, and making the list. Yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely.
And I
Right. Go ahead.
I absolutely agree with Mitra, who said writing skill in general. One of my favorite things to do on the Twitter account was for them to practice grammar. I'd ask them a question with the structure they had to practice, and they had to answer with it. And they loved it. I was amazed. I got far more done through that account than on paper.
Excellent. Awesome. And we have Amira's ordering stuff from vendors on Facebook pages. Yes, good point. There's a marketplace there, right? And Burju is saying, my students were interested in shopping online, so I got them to search items on Walmart online, compare similar items to one they found on Facebook Marketplace. Then they had to write about which one they would choose to buy and why. That's awesome. You're muted, Stephanie.
I just said, wow, that's awesome.
I love that, Burju. Great one. Thank you for sharing with us. That's wonderful. Yeah, great combo activity. That's right, Amira. Good one. Anybody else? Yes, very creative and productive. I totally agree. Totally agree. And fun, right? At the same time, they're learning real world task. Any other? If we don't have, we are gonna move on to next question. Over to you, Umme.
Okay, thank you. So now we are going to more conversational questions. So our first question is, what ready-to-go lessons on social media are you already aware of, and how frequently do you use them? Yes, first, anyone, like maybe Stephanie first and then everybody. Yeah.
I am a big fan of following the accounts on all platforms of BBC Learning English, the British Council. My apologies for not knowing the full name, but the ISS of BC ESL accounts, Cambridge accounts, as well as, if you can still find them, some of the CBCs. They come in and out, but some of them as well. ESL library is awesome. I absolutely agree. It is a godsend, and I regularly tell them that. So those are my favorites. How often do I use them? All the time. I am of the firm belief there is no need to reinvent the wheel. If someone has already made a fantastic lesson for what I want to teach, who am I to change it? I used to call myself lazy, but my boss said, call yourself efficient. There's a difference. TED Ed. I love TED Ed. I wish I could use it right now with my students, but I'm not allowed.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was wonderful. Anybody else would like to put it in the chat or say it out loud? That what do you use and how often do you use? Kathleen mentions, I use listenaminute.com for opening listening exercises before we proceed to the grammar lessons. Great.
Have you, sorry, to that person, do you use any more of the Sean Banville lessons? He's the guy that does Listen a Minute. He has a ton of websites. What age and level do I teach? I teach 18 and up. I think the oldest student I ever had was 92. And right now I'm teaching 4, 5, 6, but I've taught everything from PB to 9.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. Well, Sarah also sharing another source with us, teachingenglishkids.britishcouncil.org. We have some great resources coming in. Anybody else would like to share what they use and how often they use? I'm gonna share one. I use ReadWorks. It's awesome for reading, vocabulary, comprehension, Excel source.
I have one on YouTube. His main site is a website. It's not social media, but he's created a YouTube account. All things grammar and all things topics. If you don't know those websites, I highly recommend you visit them. And in terms of social media, the YouTube channel.
Awesome, thanks, Stephanie. Do you mind typing that in the chat so that people actually either click on it or Google it to find? We have great resources coming in. And live worksheet, yes, Kristen, I also use that one as well. Anybody else? We have TED, edted.com, activity/lessons. allthinggrammar.com. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, Kristen. I use quite a bit. Live worksheets are good. English with uses. All things grammar. Agenda web. Perfect. Okay. If you happen to remember and if you want to add, feel free to add in the chat. Can we move to next question? Oh, you have something to say, Stephanie? Please.
Yes, I'm sorry. One of the, I'm not sure if it's fully social media, but YouTube. A lot of the traditional publishers have YouTube channels, with videos that are incredibly useful. Oxford Picture Dictionary, Oxford Learn English, and a bunch of others, which I can't remember right now because I didn't write them down, of course. But looking on YouTube, just go into the YouTube search, ESL, EFL lessons. It's a gold mine.
Awesome. Thank you for those excellent sources. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Going good. So our next question is, how can you build off the online lessons for skill building activities, skill using activities, and assessment? Yeah, so my personal question is maybe those who are not teaching in ESL and Link, maybe skill building, skill using activities are a little bit confusing. I would appreciate if Stephanie can explain us a little bit more.
Sure. So you can think of it as the building blocks. Skill building is all the stuff they need to learn for the test. The grammar, the pronunciation, the vocabulary, the listening skills, the reading skills, the writing skills, the speaking skills. Skill using activities is practice for the test, and assessment is the test. So was that clear, or does anybody need clarification?
Yes. Everyone's quiet. Seems like everybody's good. Thank you, Stephanie. Now, as your turn, if you would like to participate, please feel free to unmute yourself and talk, or type in the chat. Susan said, but I don't understand this question still.
Okay, if I can give an example, what we are required to do is first ask the students what they want to learn to do in terms of real world tasks, which means something outside the classroom. Do they want to use an ATM? Do they want to download Flip and make a shopping list? Do they want to write an email to a friend. So if they say, I want to be able to write emails to my family back home in English. Okay. So skill building is everything they need to be able to do that. Greetings, sign-offs, closings, the different parts of the email, any grammar they may have to learn, vocabulary, and spelling. Those are skill building activities. Now, to check and see that my students understand how to write an email, I have to give them a test and say, write an email. But before that, I give them a practice, after which I give them a bunch of feedback about how to improve. And this is called the skill using activity. It is not the same thing as the assessment or test. It's a little bit different, but it is the same task. The assessment, finally, is simply the test I use to see if they can do the real world task they wanted to learn. Does that clarify?
That's great. Thank you. Burju is saying, I usually begin with this assessment. I want to give, then break it down to the smaller parts, vocabulary, skill areas of focus. I need to teach the mini practice activities I want to give to prep them for the formal assessment.
Yep, exactly.
Great way to start. And Mitra mentions task-based learning. Yes. Present, practice, and perform.
Yes, I just wanted to say that from the PBLA model, you always start with the end in mind. So you kind of start with the assessment and then you work your way up. How can our students achieve the real world task? So you have your real world task, and then you have to figure out what you need for them to achieve that. The grammar points, the language, like whatever it is that is needed. So when you do it like that, it really works out so well. I mean, I do this in my class all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm also a PBL lead. So I've been through the training, and I know I like PBLA, even though, anyway, I just think that because I know a lot of teachers don't like PBLA. But when you start with the end in mind, you know what the students need to learn. And then as a teacher, we have to develop the skill building, the grammar, whatever is needed to achieve that task. And I always say to my students, making mistakes is not a problem. As long as you learn from your mistakes, that's the main key. So as teachers, I think we have to set our students up for success, not for failure, or not for just, pass or fail. I think we have to make sure our students pass. And by doing that, that's the skill building, the skill using, so that when we do an assessment, they can achieve it. It's what they can do, not what they can't do. That's at least how I've embraced the whole PBLA thing.
That's a great way to look at it, Kristen. Thank you very much for the explanation and in detail. That's great. Thank you. Karen says, I recently used the proposition of direction lessons from ESL library to have the students give a 5-minute oral and written presentation on how to reach the local farmers market from their house. Very good one.
In terms of building off the online lessons for skill building, skill using, and assessment, you can use the lesson itself and just label it accordingly. Sometimes you hit the jackpot and you find a lesson online that's all 3 done. But simply plug it into where you need it, and you can develop off there. For example, I recently found a lesson on teaching my students how to text and how to use text short forms and emojis. And There's not surprisingly not a lot of assessments on that, but there's a lot of skill building stuff. So I'm taking the skill building and then I'm going to have them practice and assess them on how well they can use those short forms and emojis.
Great. Thank you very much, Stephanie.
So yeah, I have a question. Like,
Sure.
so Stephanie, do you think skill using and assessments are sometimes same?
It's the same kind of task. You have to just make sure the details are different.
Yeah.
For example, my assessment for the texting unit I'm currently working on will be they have to have a texting conversation with me using short forms and emojis. But the skill using will be a different topic than the assessment.
I understand. Thank you so much for explaining.
Great. Thanks for the participation, everyone. Let's move on.
All right. So very engaging discussions, I should say. So our next question is, what digital citizenship can be brought into the learning experience using social media in the classroom? Again, digital citizenship might not be clear to everyone. So Stephanie, I would request you first to explain the question.
Sure. Digital citizenship is using not just social media, but any kind of electronic communication or resource safely and responsibly and respectfully. And safety is one of the big ones that I teach in every class whenever they want to learn anything that I can tap into the computer for. They have to understand that information is shared and that nothing on the internet is private. I teach that sentence every term and I make sure they get that. They have to learn about scams, right? If I get one more messenger message asking me for money from my dead mother, honestly, like it's just ridiculous. So they have to learn about that. That companies do sell your information or give your information to other companies for marketing purposes. Okay. And honestly, the safety is something I found even my colleagues need to understand in a more full manner. I had colleagues very upset about getting a Google account at work because there was that scandal of Google. I can't remember if it was a leak or sharing information on their users. And they were very upset and they felt it wasn't safe, but they were all active Facebook users. And Mark Zuckerberg had recently been in the American Congress saying, yeah, we sell people's information all the time. So it's really important that they understand the safety, also the cultural norms. If you have a job, if you are applying for a job, they're gonna check your social media. So make sure that if you have your first name and last name on that account, that it's, for lack of a better term, clean. So I think those are some of the most important digital citizenships that concepts that can be brought into the experience.
Great. Thank you very much, Stephanie. I'm sorry, Kristen had, raised her hand, but I didn't see it. It might be with the previous question, but would you like to ask, Kristen?
No, I think that was with the previous question. I thought I lowered my hand. I'm sorry. I thought I lowered it. Sorry about that.
Worries. I thought I missed you. Okay.
No. I thought I lowered it. My bad. Sorry.
No worries at all. Thank you for clarifying it. Okay. Thanks again, Stephanie. That was great. Floor is yours. Anybody would like to talk or write in the chat, please do so. So we have Heflin saying privacy and disclosure of personal information is also important. Absolutely, it is very important. Especially the students that they don't know very well. Anybody else would like to add anything to it? If it's not, we have more questions.
Yes, we can move on to our next question. So our next question is, how can you keep a record of skill using assessment results and provide feedback to the students if the tasks are on social media? Good question, Stephanie.
I have used, depending on the level of students, screenshots or links. Links to the account. As I said, if I have my students, when I had my students set up their accounts for social media in the classroom, I had them create a dummy email account and as such a dummy social media account. And I told them, this is just for school. Please do not use it for anything else. If you want another Facebook account or another Instagram account or another Twitter account, make it with your personal email and your correct information. So I have used screenshots and then copied and pasted it onto a Google Doc, and then that's uploaded to my students' portfolio. Or I will use links as well. And then because it's on social media, then they can just follow the link and find that information.
Okay, I think by mistake I hit the wrong button. It will be inviting you to join the breakout room. Please don't. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, thank you very much, Stephanie. Anybody would like to add anything to it or share your opinion or have a question? Please feel free to do so. You can talk, kindly unmute yourself or raise your hand, or you can write your response in the chat box. Do you see any benefits of using the social media?
Yes. The first benefit is the ready-made resources. And the second benefit for me as the teacher is the professional network you can develop is just incredible. Over the years, I have been so fortunate to connect with different people in our profession, not just in Ontario and Canada, but in other countries as well. And anytime you have a problem, I just DM some people on Twitter. I'm like, I need help with this lesson, and it comes. I've learned a lot about time zones, but that has been a phenomenal thing. And there's always new resources coming on social media. And also it's very easy to, as I mentioned earlier, sell the students on the concept. So those are the main benefits that I see. And I'm really curious as to other people's ideas.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Stephanie. That was wonderful. Claudia is mentioning sharing teaching resources is awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely. There are a lot of resources out there that people share. You find out. And Jennifer says, I think the main benefit is that students find this way of learning very useful and interesting. Therefore, using social media increases their motivation. Absolutely. I totally agree with this one because they really need something different, not, just in the classroom environment, your books and notebooks and all that, but going on the social media and doing other things, it becomes very helpful. Stephanie, please.
Thank you. I didn't want to interrupt. You had such a good point. One thing that I was actually taught to me by students, some people were saying, "Oh, teacher, when I have time, when I do this." And another student said, "You have phone? Yeah. You have bathroom? Yeah. Take phone to bathroom. There. Everybody go bathroom, teacher." I'm like, okay. I wouldn't have said that, but sure, why not? Well, that's a benefit. Everybody has a couple minutes a day in the bathroom to scroll on their social media.
Absolutely. That's a good point, definitely. Francis said, thinking about how many students have been asked to write essay so many times, this is far more relevant to them. That's for sure. Good one. Anybody else would like to say anything or share or put it in the chat box or talk or question before we move on? Oh, Burji is mentioning most of us use social media anyway. I choose to connect with my student using the platform they felt most comfortable using. That's a good one too. So that way you don't have to teach them how to use that platform because they are already familiar with. Have a great day, Kristen. Thank you for joining us. Anybody else? Maybe we can move on
to like breakout room questions or what?
Yeah, is this the last one? I'm just almost ready with the breakout rooms. Perhaps you guys can start talking about it. Read.
So we have more questions. So that was our breakout room question actually. So
okay.
So are you going to do the breakout room now or we have a few more minutes?
We still have time.
Oh, okay. So I think we use, yeah. So number 8 question is, how can learners benefit from having learned social media skills after they leave your classroom? Yeah.
One of the most important things to the learners is the ability to keep improving English by themselves. Once they follow the accounts like Cambridge or Oxford or British Council, they find immense value to it. And they keep following them and they say, "Oh, thank you, teacher," I recently taught an IELTS prep class and they were ecstatic to learn about the Cambridge IELTS Instagram account. They thought and that it was a trustworthy resource and it would constantly give them something new every day. They love that. Also the safety. Again, learning the safety skills they learn in your classroom, then they can apply that in the future to their social media.
Great, thank you very much. Anybody would like to add to Stephanie's point? Please feel free to do so. Amira says, staying current with new tech trends. Yes, I think that's the other thing, or even current hot topics around the world. Things are keep on changing, right? especially for tech. We have a lot of tech webinars going on each time, new platform, new things to learn. It's kind of, having a difficult time to keep up with it. I don't know if anybody has a similar experience.
Oh, of course. Yeah. You can't keep up with everything. You just do your best, right? And always learn. Always try and learn, right?
Yes, for sure. Okay, any other?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to other questions. So we have actually Burcu just mentioned something, online website which includes videos, closed caption, articles to read, responses to write, and are enjoyable for students. And Farhan also, if they have children, they can stay on top of what their children are doing on social media and help them stay out of trouble. That's pretty helpful as well. Good points. Amira, did you raise your hand?
Oh, yes.
Would you like to talk?
With regard to new social media platforms, I think now with the birth, quote unquote, birth of Clubhouse, I think Clubhouse is one of the new social media apps. It's a mobile phone app that I think is like we also can use to enhance their listening skills. If they are able to make a profile of their own on Clubhouse, get together, open a room, chit chat. I think this also can be used. I'm not sure whether a lot of teachers know about Clubhouse, but okay, it's really good. If you have an iPhone, this was an app that was invented for iPhones first, and then after a couple of months, it became available to the Android system. It's basically, it's like a chat application, but the chat is using your voice. Not, exactly. Oh my God, Stephanie, I love your reaction. So basically, instead of people getting together on a discussion board and writing, people get together in a room on this app and they talk. I think, of course, I don't think a lot of, I cannot find something on ESL library ready for that app, but I think it's an application that if we think about and we invest some time designing activities using it, I think it's gonna benefit a lot of teachers and students as well, with the speaking and listening skills in particular.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you very much. And we have Burcu shares with us another website. It's called newsinlevels.com. And Marjorie mentioned students do not feel so isolated and learn from each other. Some students have a lot of technical knowledge and enjoy sharing and helping others to understand how to use new platforms. Definitely agree with that, Marjorie. And they feel good about helping each other.
May I share some ideas with you about it?
Sure.
Yeah, I just came to this idea that they can have and they can run a social media together with the teacher, for example, having an Instagram page and just have it together and feed it together. For example, like putting or loading lessons or teaching material or fun things related to English learning, you know, and they can do it together with the teacher and all classmates together.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, I think we're good. Anyone raise hand? No questions. Okay, let's move on in there.
We have reached to our last question. Yeah. What downsides can there be to using social media in a classroom? Yeah, everything has pros and cons. So nothing is absolutely good or absolutely bad. So as we already talked about the inappropriate use of social media. So yeah, what downsides can there be? Definitely the experience using it.
The downsides can be some students will get distracted during class. Once they figure out how to find accounts, they will immediately start looking for other things to do instead of listen to you. Another thing, a downside, and I didn't know this until I had that class with the Twitter accounts. Some students have in their lives experienced punishment because of social media use in certain countries. I had one student from Venezuela who had come after the destabilization is the correct term of Venezuela. And she said, okay, teacher, I want to do this, but I have a Twitter account. And if I try to use it again, the government will hurt my family. I'm like, okay, your name is Jane Smith. You're from Hamilton, and we're going to use my cell phone number to get the authentication. And no one will be able to find you. That was something that I had to accommodate with a couple of students, and I never even realized that that would be an issue. But that is something that if you decide to make accounts that you may run into, is that some students have suffered because of their activism in their home countries on social media. So there is an extreme, not even nervousness, but fear associated with it. So that's something to consider. And again, why one of the first things I teach is a dummy account, the concept of a dummy account, and to lie about everything but their first name. And even if they're still nervous, anglicize their first name, right? Change it to something English. I say, no one will find you. Oh, and also never teach making an account around the cricket world championships. I learned that the hard way. I lost half the class during the lesson once they found their team's account. Oh my God. But does anybody else see any downsides?
That's great. Thank you so much, Stephanie. You shared quite a bit and quite eye-opening as well. Please feel free to put your response in the chat, or feel free to raise your hand or jump in, unmute yourself. And this is the last question, and then we'll go to breakout rooms, which will explore a little further and talk a little bit more. So we have a few things in here. Some topics can be controversial and inappropriate in a classroom setting. So definitely in that case, teacher needs to be in charge and make sure they're on track. Let's see. Or students might, Nia says, student might get carried away or distracted. Quite possible. And Fatma also says, not everyone is comfortable using social media, especially at very low levels. And yes, learners are concerned that their accounts can be or are monitored by other people. And we have Susan raise her hand. Would you like to talk, Susan?
Yes, actually, I'm not sure. Might have been Amira who said with the lower levels. Like, I would imagine it's kind of running before you can walk. The students that need to practice introducing themselves and speaking about what they're interested in. there isn't really an opportunity to go into teaching about social media. I also think that how many instructors are comfortable enough themselves with teaching, it's almost like teaching tech, to me anyway.
No, that's a great point, Susan. You're absolutely right. Some instructors not really know that much of a tech, so that can be very challenging. No, that's a really good point. Thank you for sharing that. Bosar says some students might be unfamiliar with the trolling or understand memes that it's being used. Okay, anybody else would like to add? If not, we're gonna start the breakout room so that we have enough time in the breakout rooms, also enough time to take up. Okay, Ume, would you like to move to breakout room question, please? Okay, how can you as instructor benefit from incorporating social media into your classroom? So I created total of 7 rooms, actually 6 rooms. I'm gonna send you in that specific room. Please start talking about this specific topic, and you have 5 to 7 minutes to talk, and then we'll come back to the session and then we'll talk about it. Okay, I'm opening the rooms right now. Please accept the invitation as soon as you receive.
Please stop sharing now for a few seconds, maybe.
Yeah, we still have 7.
Yeah, we still have 3 people that haven't. Johan, Blanca, Somasundaram. Can you join your breakout rooms, please?
Yes, as far as I know, I signed everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, but 3 people
Maybe
have
they
not
are-
joined.
Maybe they are not in front of a computer or something.
Exactly.
And the washroom or something, because they looks like they're still here.
Right. Yeah, that's okay.
So just for 1 minute, like when you were doing the breakout room, Gonal, it popped up in my screen and I thought we are running out of time and I quickly move on to the breakout
And
room.
I was like, why we are in the question 10 now? That's why I was like,
Because like a breakout room popped in my screen. Maybe you were deciding, like you were making the breakout room and it popped up in my
yeah,
screen.
I was preparing it. Yeah, I was preparing it. But I did announce it that by mistake I touched it. Please do not accept.
It's going really well. Yeah.
Yeah, so far people are, participating in the chat and talking. Good topic. Very interesting.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Yeah.
I hope it's going well. Thank you.
It is.
It is.
It is. Very insightful, suggestions. So many online portals came up for learning.
I know it's fantastic. Sorry, go on.
All good. No, it's going fabulous. And we are getting a lot of resources. I love resources.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. And people are sharing their own resources and sharing their own
Yeah,
experiences. So
that's
that's great,
lovely.
right?
Sharing
That's why,
is caring.
yeah,
That's lovely.
exactly. That's why we're doing this, right? So that we can all
Yeah.
share what works or what doesn't.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Very good point.
I completely agree. And you know, why do it yourself if somebody else has already done it, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why invent the wheel, right?
Save the time. Do something else instead.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, but what I found, like from my experience, even if I take the same, lecture from TESL, I have to tweak it a little bit, depending on the learners in front of me, right? Like different context comes out, or maybe different grammar points pops up because, it is never the same. It is from my experience. Even if I use the same lecture, like same level with the different learners, it's always different.
Absolutely.
As who are in front of me.
Different experience each time. One works in one classroom. Excellent. You're like, oh yeah, let me use for the next classroom. No, terrible.
Exactly. Didn't find it interesting, maybe.
Yes, for sure. Loretta, quick question. In this
Mhm.
breakout room, it's already being put a time frame, or
No, we have to inform them that they have 1 minute left.
okay, do I write it in the chat? Do they see that?
Yes. So we
Okay.
could send a message in the chat that
Okay.
you have
do you
1
think they
minute
have it?
left.
Okay, we'll just say
So we started at 8:15 or 14.
that's right. Yeah.
When did we open the breakout rooms?
So
8:14.
Yeah, 8:14.
Okay, so we could give them,
Perhaps another 3 minutes or something, 2 to 3 minutes.
they need a bit more. Yeah, so maybe up to 8:21.
Anyone?
But there are-
I'm fine with that.
So how many breakout rooms do we have? We have
We have total of 7.
7.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we need
Yeah,
to,
quite a few people. And plus we have to take up 2, right?
exactly.
So I don't want anybody to feel that we were in the breakout room talked and we didn't really say what we needed to say.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
So yeah, Stephanie, what happens is that we allow people to come back and share whatever their experience was in the breakout room and whatever they discussed. We have one presenter from each breakout room to share.
Okay. Can I say thank you at the end of the evening?
Absolutely.
oh,
Yes.
yes, for sure.
Yeah. So we'll keep on sharing your contact details. We'll also have our own ending slides in which we inform them about their certificates. And yeah,
That's right.
so we're not done. Yeah.
Better if I go to
Have other
so that
housekeeping rules to do.
Mhm.
after,
Okay, I'm gonna write hello everyone. You have 1 minute left.
It's 18.
Is it 18? So 2 minutes.
Yes. Room 2 is big.
Yes.
But yeah.
6. But I try to make it between 4 and 5.
Mhm.
But some
Didn't
Wow.
join. Mhm.
either didn't join or they just left.
Yeah, true.
And
That
I-
happens. That
Yeah.
happens in my classroom as well. When students come back from breakout rooms, there are always less students than when we started breakout rooms. Oh. Does it happen to you as well?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't get to use breakout rooms. So
Mhm.
we're only allowed to use Google Classroom and Google Meet, and they
Mhm.
don't have that feature.
I see. Yeah.
In
Yeah,
which
always.
schools are you working, Stephanie?
Peel District School Board.
The Toronto district?
Peel.
Peel.
Peel. And we had a hack last year, this year, a big one for the whole board. And
Wow.
before that, we were allowed to use what we wanted. After that, Google Classroom only.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough. Yeah.
Okay, I like it, but breakouts.
Okay.
So do you use like Avenue and Onyx over there?
Not yet. Not as systems. Quite honestly, I poach stuff from them all the time. That's listed on Tutela and whatnot. But no, not as systems. We have to go by our school board's mandate, and that is you can use Google Classroom or you can use Microsoft Teams to communicate with your students, but Teams doesn't have a classroom attached. So
So in Toronto,
Okay, so you can close the breakout rooms, right? That's how it works.
Close all rooms.
Yes, you have to click on
Okay.
close all rooms. It gives them 1 minute.
Okay. Yeah, they are coming. I also sent them a message and some of them kindly just signed out. Hello again. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had fun in the breakout rooms. We're very curious to know what you guys ended up talking. What did you discuss? And time to share now. So everybody's back. 21 seconds. Welcome back. 13 seconds. We still have some people in the breakout room still talking. Okay, everyone's back. Excellent. Okay, now I will be going room by room. And if you have a designated person that who would like to share their experience, what happened in the breakout room, we would like to know. So room 1, we have Amira, Annie, Blanca, and Burju. Would you like to share? What did you discuss in the breakout room? Anyone in that room? Please.
Ladies, well, we kind of, we talked about a couple of our experiences. I shared developing LinkedIn profiles in one of the programs I was teaching with World Skills, actually introducing women to the trades. And that was very effective. We also discussed what happens when someone doesn't want to be involved in social media for whatever reasons, and then sort of understanding what the motivation is or why they aren't motivated to do it. And sometimes if you dig a little bit deeply, you can find out and you can resolve that or help them overcome whatever the issue may be. What else did we talk about, ladies? Somebody else step in from the group and share.
Yeah, so this is Burju. We also mentioned, I was starting to talk about some of the challenges actually in terms of giving assessments to students and minimizing or preventing cheating from happening. Kind of branched off into that actually in our conversation. So one thing that I was sharing was either having everyone's cameras on was one thing, and then giving limited time to answer each question. Or another way was I actually came across this challenge where about 3 of my students only had their cell phones to use for assessment purposes, and they could not be on camera and also answer questions on a document at the same time without getting kicked off the chat room. So basically what had to happen was I told my students there were, for example, 3 parts to the assessment, and then I would email them everyone at the same time, part A. They had an X number of minutes to complete part A, email it back to me by a certain given time. Then I would email part B and so on. And we were just hoping, like, these are just some of the challenges that come up with teaching online, I guess, just not specifically for social media or using it, but like it can come up basically. So that's what we were talking about.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. That's great. Let's move on to room 2. So we have Caroline, Claudia, Fatma, Jennifer, Susan, and Basora. And any of you would like to share? Room 2, anybody?
Well, I think in general, we all use YouTube. We were saying for the lower levels, it would be really hard to use something like Facebook. Although Xavier mentioned that he liked Twitter to show how something he taught was used in real life, and so that students could understand it in context. We ended with Carolyn, who had a very good idea about Facebook. She said she mainly uses it for students to follow their school. So actually, that's a kind of a good, I think, middle way. So they do a bit on Facebook, but not too much, so they get to know it. But I can't remember if anybody else, I think that's pretty much a synopsis.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Susan. That was wonderful. So let's move. Anybody else from room 2 before I move to room 3? Are we good? Okay, let's move on to room 3. We have Jennifer, Janan, and Catherine, Kai, Halit, and Marjorie. Anyone in the group, please feel free to jump in and share your experience with us. Anybody from room 3?
I thought that Jennifer raised a very good point, and that was the difference between teaching about social media versus use of social media as part of the class. And again, going back to some of the concerns about the use of technology, the hesitancy about having a social media presence, things like feeling compelled to have to participate or to be involved in this. And we really started to talk about a little bit of that sort of crawl, walk, run of teaching about it and then giving the students an opportunity to engage with it. So that was, part of what we were talking about. And the other piece that we talked about, and Marjorie brought it up, is just when the social media apps like WhatsApp, for example, when the learners are creating their own kind of learning community, whether to be involved in that or whether to sort of fade back as the instructor and stay outside of that, not become involved in a social media group, maybe to fade back and let that just happen. And how in a multicultural setting where English is the common language, how the innovation and the creativity comes about in communicating amongst and across the group. So a couple of things we talked about: boundaries for the instructor, and also this movement from teaching about social media to how learners choose to engage with it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Okay, let's move on to next group because we have a few minutes left. And room number 5, Laura, Nihat, and Raj. Anybody would like to share in that group? And then after that, we have only one group left. Laura, Nihat, or Raj? Anybody?
This is Laura. So we just spoke very generally as our experiences are in some cases from the past, and but we're definitely interested in the topic. One thing that we did talk about is how to handle different levels of expertise, like students as skill levels, what they bring to the task, to the class, either as skill or experiences and things like that. And just wondered how much lesson planning was involved and how we do that, and talked about breaking things into objectives a bit. And anyhow, that was just a very general conversation, but comforting, and to know that we're not the only one thinking that way. Right?
Thanks, Laura. That was wonderful. Thank you. Okay, the last group we have Mansouri, Rosa, Zelda, and Somasundara. Anybody would like to participate in this group to share with us about their group?
Okay, Serdar here. We thought learning how to use social media effectively would be the main benefit for us, as I'm not a good user. Okay, and so this would be the benefit for me. But also that also made us think about the potential risks, we might not be aware of as we're not good users. So that's basically it. That this is what we talked about in the. Rosa, would you like to add anything?
No, I think that's great. I mean, the only other thing that came up was students being resources for one another. But again, it being important for the teacher to have some awareness of the safety considerations. So we'd need to have that information before setting up a situation in which students are sharing information about social media in the classroom.
That's great. Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate your participation. And
yeah, so before going, we would like to share Stephanie's contact info. So her email is sluetner@gmail.com, and her LinkedIn, http://www.linkedin.com is Stephanie Luetner. Yeah, you can see it. So yeah, you can write it down or can take a screenshot. You can communicate with her further if you are interested about this topic. Yeah, and then before moving, I think we would like to wish everybody Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, because this is gonna be our last session this year. So next year we will start. So I know I'd like to stop sharing my screen, and Stephanie wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody. So over to you, Stephanie.
Hi, I just wanted to thank everyone for attending. I hope you found it useful. And also please feel free to also reach out to me on Twitter. That's where a lot of my support network is in terms of my profession, and I'd love to add to it. And I'm Luetner_S at Twitter. So thank you so much, everybody, and happy holidays.